Okay. Okay. All right. Hang on. Let's get here. Okay. Hey out there, welcome to the Brewery Underground podcast, where you can follow us 24/7 at SullivanTimeBreweryAdventures.com, and we're also on Spotify. Steve Sullivan here. Hey, the Chancellor of Craft Beer, he is also here today as well. And Scott, on this episode, we are going to talk about some separate trips we recently took, what we like to call divide and conquer. We did it, man. We did it. What do you think?
we we did it. I think we boosted the local economy in two separate places of the country.
We
Pretty good.
did.
Pretty
We
good job.
did. Yeah.
We hadn't seen each other in a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks.
At least that. That's right.
Yeah.
The basically the about the last week or so of July, you and I took two separate trips. I went up to Western Michigan, and you went to North Carolina, and we had a good time.
We did.
Separately. Yeah, separately. I'm gonna tell you what. I'm teasing this. I am teasing this on social media. You're going to see the you're reading the tease on social media. Steve's trip to Western Michigan. He should have drove, and I'm going to
Uh-oh.
talk about that at
You
the end of my trip today. So I'm going to do that.
Everything
But
you have to talk about is going to be brand new to me. I cheated a little bit, saw some of your notes, but I have no idea other than what you posted and
yeah,
checked in what you did up there. So
I know. I
I'm
know.
excited to hear.
Well, speaking of checking
I'm gonna be
in,
like a listener on this one.
you are. You are. Hey, speaking of checking in, we're going to check in some beers right now, and the beer that I'm checking in because I got this in Western Michigan is Founders Fruitwood. And I'm going to open this thing up right now. I've had some Founders before, and I have not had this one. And I am looking forward to having a little Founders here. How about yourself?
Let me see what that can looks like.
It's a
Oh,
bottle, my
you got it
friend.
in a bottle. Oh, I've had that. Okay, all right, very nice.
Bottle, yeah.
I don't see many
Yeah.
bottles anymore. All right, I had to rinse my palate because I just got them off this 9.3 double IPA, and I'm going to a the hell is this? A Goza with key lime. It's suburban beverage by Perennial, which does a really good job. So it's
All right.
literally more than half, less than half of the last ABV. It's 4.2%. So I've cut it well in half from the last one. Anyway,
Well, my
cheers.
founders, my founders, it's a fruit beer. It's 8%. It isn't a
Ooh,
bottle, and I got it back on a plane, which I'm going to talk about all of that
yeah.
in a few minutes.
Hey, by the
But hey,
way,
yeah,
before we get
yep, yep.
there, you
Hmm.
checked in a beer the other day, and I meant to mention it, but I didn't. It was like
Hmm.
13%. Did you know that going in?
I did. I think I had that at the airport.
No, you had a bottle of it the other day. What the heck was
I
it?
think I'm going to talk about that as well.
Okay. Yeah, I
What
saw
was
you was
it?
like,
What was
holy
it? Which one was it? Do you know?
hang on. I'll tell you. I'll tell you real quick here.
Okay.
We can edit this out, obviously. But oh, and I was
No,
like, does he
no, we
know
don't
it's?
have to. No, we don't have to edit this out.
No, hang on. Let's see. He said that. I was like, because it was on the. It was a bottle. Hang on. What was it? It was. What did I remember? KBS spicy chocolate. You gave it a 4. Oh, it was a
Founders.
12%. Yeah, it was a
It was
12%.
Founders.
Yeah. Did you know it was 12%?
I did. I had it at my house.
Yeah, you did. I know. I saw you check it in. You loved it. It was a 4.
I did. It was something I
Outstanding.
brought back from Western Michigan.
When I saw that, I was just thinking about your story about the 120-minute dogfish head, but I guess it
Right?
didn't.
No, it wasn't that bad.
Not quite
No.
that. Okay.
Plus, I was
Well,
at my house, my friend. I was at my house
yeah.
that day,
All
so I was
right.
doing
Well,
all
good.
right.
And you like the beer, so it was good.
Yeah, yeah, pretty good, pretty good.
All right. Well,
So,
cheers.
as we had talked about, we both took some separate trips around the same time. My trip was up to Western Michigan. So, this specific trip wasn't exactly all about breweries, as I sometimes do. This was a trip to go see a buddy of mine, my friend Dan Idem. I've known him for over 25 years, him and his wife, Amy. Dan used to live in Nashville. He and I used to work in radio together. He moved up there to Holland, Michigan a couple of years ago. And Dan works at a radio station in Holland, Michigan. I'd never been there before. a great town, a great area. I've been through Michigan. I've been through Detroit. I've been through Ann Arbor. I've been way up in the Upper Peninsula, but I've never been in this part of Western Michigan. So it was a fun time. And again, a tease. The initial conversation that Dan and I had was, "Are you going to drive up here?" And I said, "Maybe." And then it was about an 8.5 hour drive. Remember this, it was about an 8.5 hour drive, or it could have been. I decided to fly. Now, my flight up, I'm not going to go through all of this because we want to really get into the beer, but my flight up wasn't too bad. I flew Southwest Airlines, connecting flights, went into Chicago Midway, and then went on to Grand Rapids. I think it's the Gerald Ford International Airport. Former president is the name of that airport up there. But so I got up there. I had a bit of a delay getting up there. It was about an hour, but it really didn't impact anything. What was really cool is that the night that I got into Grand Rapids, it was on a Thursday, it was July 18th, and I had scoped out some of the breweries that I wanted to go to up there, and one of them was New Holland Brewing. And so my friend Dan, my buddy Dan, his wife Amy picked me up at the airport, and we went to this little event that was going on that night in Holland that Dan was actually hosting, little charity outdoor concert. And I get there, and lo and behold, New Holland Brewing is there, my friend. And I got so excited, I walked up there and I said, "You know what? I just got in from Nashville and I want to have your beer." And they kind of got excited thinking I drove all the way from Nashville just to have their beer, right? That wasn't exactly it, but this was my first opportunity to ever have their beer, and I had two of them. I had the Mad Hatter and the Tangerine Space IPA. I rated both a 4 on Untapped, and I have talked about this a little bit over time that I am becoming a bigger fan of the IPA world. I loved both of these. I would drink them again, and certainly look forward to getting back up there to drink them again. So
Would you say that is IPA your favorite, or is it kind of creeping up on you as becoming one of your favorites?
It's starting to creep up. It's starting to creep up. I feel like over this past year or so, I'm starting to understand IPAs more. But I also feel like IPAs are maybe changing a little bit more for the craft beer lovers too. Do you think maybe they've changed over the years, or
Yeah.
maybe I've just changed?
No. There's so many different styles of IPAs
Yeah.
too. So maybe you lean more towards one than another. Or
Mm-hmm.
I think we've talked to somebody that said that some of the hazies are kind of going away, and it's kind of going back to more West Coast traditional kind of
Yeah.
things. So
Yeah.
it could be some of that.
It could be. It could be. Well, like I said, I actually enjoyed both of those. You know, the Tangerine Space IPA is it's a fruited IPA. So basically, it's got tangerine, a little hop in the background, is what they say about it, and uh, that kind of backs up what I tasted. So I
Mm.
really liked it.
Let me
Interesting,
ask you
and
this.
yep,
Let me ask you this. Interfere, because you're not a big grapefruit IPA guy, are you?
I'm not.
And I know tangerines aren't the same thing, but
Yeah.
can you tell a difference? Like, I mean, are you saying like I like tangerine way better than I like grapefruit, or
The
just this
interest.
particular beer?
So the interesting thing about this conversation is I've had other different style beers, maybe like wheat beers, things like that with tangerine in them, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. So maybe it just also depends on the style of the beer, you know.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's what happens sometimes.
Yep.
Now the Mad Hatter, it's funny when I went in and I looked at the Mad Hatter because you had checked in this beer back in 2017 and you gave it a 3 on Untapped.
Did I really?
Yes, you did.
Where the hell
Maybe
did I
it's
have it?
changed. I don't know. Maybe it's changed over the years because the Mad Hatter is a 7% IPA. It says that basically it has citrus and some bitterness in it from Michigan grown Cascade hops. Well, I rated that a 4 and I really liked it. And so I was really, really glad that I was able to get some beer from New Holland Brewing.
That's cool. I 2017, I was still kind of learning the untapped process, and my palate has changed significantly since then. So I guarantee you, I would give that beer a much higher rating than I did then. I didn't
Okay.
even check in. I didn't even check in where I had it at that
Yeah,
time.
I don't
So
know. I don't know. And by the way, this
I'm
Founders,
well below the average. Go ahead.
I was going to say this Founders that I'm drinking right now is really, really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Mm.
How many were you able to bring back with you?
I brought back 4. Yeah, I brought back 4. In fact, it's a good story. So, the night I get there, like I said, it's this outdoor charity music festival going on, and my friends are all sitting around. My friend Dan introduces me to a bunch of people sitting there, and all of a sudden, Dan says to another guy, Jim, he said, "Hey, Jim," he goes, "Steve's a big craft beer guy." Well, his friend Jim, his brother is the original founder of Founders Brewery
He
in Grand
founded
Rapids.
Founders.
He did. He's one of the original owners. And I was like, how about that? I guess apparently his brother, I think he still owns like a small portion of it, but sold off most of his shares a few years ago. But I was like, how about that? I mean,
Yeah.
of all places that I'm sitting in, and Founders is everywhere up there. You go
Yeah.
into the airport, they have their main brewery is in Grand Rapids, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So I just thought that was really ironic that I wasn't even in Holland, Michigan, very long, and all of a sudden I'm connecting with a guy whose brother had founded a brewery. What are the odds, right?
Telling you, man, it's you. You
It's
attract
me.
them. It's you.
I attract.
They probably knew you were coming and were like,
Could
"Hey,
be.
let's go where Steve's going."
Yeah, could be. Well, the other New Holland that I got that trip, not on that night, was as I was waiting to go back home at the airport. I got Dragon's Milk, New Holland. It's 11% stout. So as I was waiting for my plane flight, it's an Imperial Double Stout, and I rated that a 3.75 on Untapped. It was pretty good too.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
I'm
not bad.
checking to see if I've had it. It sounds familiar.
Yeah, yeah.
Smell New Holland. You know, it must have been. I got that one at Buffalo Wild Wings in January 2017. Don't know
Yeah,
how that happened, but
I don't
my
know.
guess is I probably got the other New Holland probably at Craft Brew would be my guess.
Hmm. I gotcha. I gotcha. Well, that was a good intro trip to get up there and get some New Holland beer, and then basically the next day we were gonna venture out. My buddy Dan and I, we were gonna go hit some breweries throughout the day. I want to give a shout out though because Holland, has a lot of tribute to the Dutch community up there. Really cool. I went to breakfast at a place called, I'm not sure I'm going to get the name of this right.
That's
If
the
I get
name
it
of the place?
if I get it wrong, it was called the De Boer Bakery, I
Oh,
think.
I see.
And I had probably the most fantastic, the best eggs Benedict ever
No way.
that I've ever had at this place. It was fantastic. So if you're in Holland, Michigan, and you need a recommendation, go there or eat something else. I mean, they had a lot of great things there. So yeah,
That is an interesting spelling. De Boer?
yeah,
Boer? Yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
something like that. So all right. Well, so some of the other places that I went up there that day, and this would have been July 19th. It was a Friday, and we ventured out, went to a place called Big Lake Brewing in Holland, and I got a flight there. I got to tell you, I pretty much loved everything at Big Lake. And it was a really big place inside too. Big Lake, big place, right?
Ah,
Really, yeah, really
could be.
enjoyed it. What kind of surprised me a little bit was the beer that I rated the highest was a brown ale. It was a 6% beer. It was called the Leroy Brown.
Wow. Was
Bad,
he
bad
bad?
Leroy Brown.
Was he
Yeah.
bad?
It was
Was he?
bad. Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I was telling you before we started this podcast that the funny thing is So my buddy Dan, he doesn't really drink that much craft beer or anything like that, but he was very interested in my rating system. So he was always trying to figure out, like, okay, I see your face.
Yeah.
I see you drinking this. What are you going to rate it? And I told him kind of like, what the scale is and things like that. And, the interesting thing was he, for the most part, was almost spot on most of the time when I was going to rate my beer. So, yeah.
Was it based on your face and your reaction? Was it, or was it kind of like leaning into the style you were drinking
It
too?
was
Or?
a little bit. Yeah. A little bit of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
gauging you a little bit, huh?
Yeah, yeah. But just a couple of them. The flight that I had, Leroy Brown, I really liked. A couple others I had was a Michigan Amber. It was a red ale of 5.3%. Also had a orange cream shandy, which was a 4.8%. Not a tremendous fan of that one, but maybe I'd get it again sometime.
Yeah.
A couple of other ones was a tropical ale, which was a 4% fruit beer that I liked, and then a peach haze, a New England IPA that I thought was pretty good from there. And then another one was the tangerine haze. So apparently I was on a haze kick that day.
and more tangerine.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right? More tangerine. Yeah.
What I keep thinking about is when we release this on Instagram.
Yeah.
The song that goes with it is going to be Bad Bad Leroy Brown.
Gotta do it. You gotta do it. Here's the Leroy Brown. I'm
It's in
telling you
my
what.
head.
I know it. I know it. Well, one of the observations that I had up there, especially at some of the breweries that I went to, and Big Lake was in particular, are the number of style of IPAs that they do there. I really want to go back sometime because they had a big diversity, and I just noticed that they did a lot of IPAs. Did some other things too, but sometimes you go to breweries and they have a whole mix of a lot of different styles, and sometimes you get a lot of IPAs at different breweries, and sometimes you don't get that many.
Interesting. It's well, I forgot what I was going to say.
I don't know. I don't know. Well, that's okay. We'll move on.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had something queued up.
Yeah. So after Big Lake Brewing, we actually went into into I guess what's considered like the little downtown area of Holland. Went to a brewery I've never been before. Actually, every brewery I went up there I've never been before, called Our Brewing Company. Was only in there for about a half hour because we were kind of on the move, but got another IPA. This was a 6.5%. It was called the Y'all Come Back Now IPA, and rated that as a 3.75 on the tap. So,
with the obvious being stated, did they say where the name of the brewery came from, or they just said, "Hey, this is ours"?
I didn't ask, and the funny thing is, I wasn't in there long. I
Yeah.
will tell you that every place I went to, I made sure I got stickers.
Yeah.
I got you a sticker too. So yeah, yep.
Sweet.
So if you, yep,
Does the sticker just say "mine" on it?
yeah, it just says for you, Scott. That's all right. That's all right. So yeah, so if you're in Holland, Michigan, go and get to Our Brewing Company, which is actually right by New Holland there as well. So I would say go ahead and get that. And then I got another Founders when I was up there. So that night, my buddy Dan and I, we actually ventured. They have a little downtown area. They had some live music going on in this theater, and I got another Founders. Had not had the MI. I think it stands for Michigan. It's the MI, the MI Pilsner, which was a 5% beer, and I rated that as a 3.75%.
Nice.
So Founders all around in the whole area. Really
It
enjoyed it.
just seemed like you can, obviously, because they're there, you could find that pretty much anywhere you went. Founders was a big deal.
Yep. Founders is definitely a big deal in that area. So that was a pretty fun day of doing that. And then the next day, which was Saturday, and this was July 20th, I think This is a brewery that you would love to go to. I know I loved it when I went there. In fact, I posted some pictures. We're in a group chat with some other folks of the beer community, and I remember when I posted this picture, the number one question everybody asked was, "Did that used to be a firehouse?" And the answer is yes. Now, this is called Mitten Brewery in Grand Rapids, Michigan. In fact, I had a couple of people who had recommended I go there, and I'm glad I did. At the end of the year, this is the tease. At the end of the year, when I talk about some of the new breweries, my favorite breweries that I've been to this year, Mitten may just make the list, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. When we always talk about what checks off the list of like the whole brewery experience, well, this used to be, as I said, it used to be a firehouse. It was my understanding that it was built in like the late 1800s and converted into a brewery. I don't know how long ago. But the cool thing was the fire pole was still in the middle of the brewery, right?
Really? Do you
Yeah.
get to go? Do you get to go down it?
I don't think you get to go down it because you'd probably hit a
Oh,
table.
okay.
But we all remember the history of fire, old firehouses and things like that when
Yeah.
they would sleep upstairs and then they would get the call and they would just slide down the pole and get on the fire trucks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Were there any girls on the bottom of the pole?
No, there wasn't. I looked
That's a
for
shame.
you. I looked for me too. Well, I looked especially for me, but there wasn't. No. No, there was
Nah,
there wasn't.
that's a
But
shame.
the other cool thing besides the beer, which I'm going to get to in a minute, is this is actually a baseball themed brewery.
Hmm.
Perfect.
Is that where the mitten came from, as in a glove?
I believe so. Yeah. Yep. So it's a baseball themed brewery of the Detroit Tigers, since they are the closest Major League Baseball team up there. Detroit is not that far away. I had taken some pictures on social media and posted them. So it was really, really a cool experience. And I was there for probably an hour. I got a flight here. And there are times, Scott, that I love. We talk about sometimes some of the quirky beers that we love to drink and will we like them or will we not? Well, here's one, my friends, that I got. I thought it was perfect. It was a peanuts and cracker jack porter.
Shit, yeah.
It it was a 6% beer. I rated it as a 4 on Untapped. And in fact, I was in Deep South Growlers a couple days ago, and I was telling the owner Greg about it, and he was asking me. He's like, "Could you actually taste the Cracker Jack?" And I'm like, "Man, I could taste them both.
Yeah.
I could taste the peanuts and the Cracker Jack in this beer." And I'm like, "I would come back again for this. It was outstanding."
Was it sweet, or
You
was it just
know,
kind of a?
it wasn't overly sweet. It really, I think we all know what the taste of porter is. So to me, I think the style of it was absolutely perfect. When I started drinking it, I went, whoever came up with the fact of making that as a porter, they were spot on
Yeah.
knowing what they were doing with this beer.
I think it's brilliant. The name alone with the style is brilliant, and the fact that they
Yep.
made it well
Yeah.
is the cherry on the cake. That's
S-
fantastic.
So I got a flight here. And I can tell you that every beer that I had on my flight, I liked. I got what was called the Goblin Juice, which was a 6% pale ale. I rated that as a 4 on Untapped. I got the Hop Hustle, which was a New Zealand IPA, which was a 5.9% on ABV. I also got one called The Stretch. You see the
Mm,
baseball theme, right? Yep.
well done. Well done.
Loved it. This was a blonde golden ale, 4.5%, and I rated that as a 4 on Untapped. And then I got the best side lager, which was a 4.9% beer, 3.75 on Untapped, and the Mango Gold, which was a 4.5% fruit beer, and I rated that as a 4 on
Damn.
Untapped.
Wow.
buddy. Let me tell you something.
I don't
I
think you've
went
had
there
that many fours in a stretch ever.
not in a while.
No.
Not in a while that I can remember that I went in and I just went, this is absolutely fantastic. This is my brewery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, this is
That's
my brewery.
everything was hitting. It sounds like.
It was.
Oh,
It
that's
was.
fantastic.
Yep.
It,
And go ahead.
no, it's just like when you go somewhere and just everything just hits. You're like, yeah, they just hit everything I like. No matter the style, it's just maybe it just fits your palate perfectly. It sounds like you found that.
It did, in fact, because we were on the go this day. We had a bunch of things to do. We were only there for maybe hour and a half, and then it was kind of like, all right, we got to go. So the fantastic thing about this place, like I said, it's a baseball themed brewery. The one thing I did not get, well, there was a lot of things I did not get, but the one I did not get, and I think you're gonna know where I'm coming from when I say this, they had a seltzer there.
Mm-hmm.
It was called the Sparkly Anderson. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Sparky Anderson, the longtime manager of the Tigers.
Yep,
I think a World Series winner.
he was.
He was in baseball for a very, very long time.
He also won back-to-back championships in the mid '70s for the Reds.
Did he?
Yes, sir.
See, well,
How did you not know that?
I'm not from Cincinnati.
I know. All right.
No, but I appreciate that. I did not know. I know him from the Tigers. That's kind of where I picked up on him.
Yep. So that was that was a great day at Mitten Brewery. And when I go back up there, and I will be going back up there, fair warning, that is going to be on my stop again. So there's a lot of breweries up there in that area. Just because, like I said, just because of time constraints that day, and Grand Rapids is about a half hour or so from Holland. We only got into Grand Rapids one day to do the brewery scene. But there was another brewery that my buddy Dan, he's like, I got the other one I'm going to take you to. And I'm like, all right. So it was a few miles down the road. And I'm not even sure this is considered I think it's a suburb basically of Grand Rapids. It was called the Perrin Brewing Company. In fact, we were
like Perrin.
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, we were driving down this road, and I finally asked him. I said, "Is this like in the woods? Are we going to see the bears or something?" Because it's like we're really driving out. But walked into this place, and I was like, "Man, this place is awesome." Now, I can't completely remember. I wish I would have written this down. They did flights, but it was either they offered flights up to either 9 or 12. It was one or the other.
And you could get a flight of 9.
I can't ever remember. I can't remember if it was 9 or 12. I should have written that down. I can't ever remember being at any brewery ever where I saw a brewery offer this many flights.
It's rare. I've seen it twice.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But the problem is when you get so many is that the back half gets a little warm.
Yeah.
But it's impressive to look at. Yeah.
But I didn't get that many. But I'll tell you what I did get. I got the New World Samurai, which was a Japanese rice lager. I always like my lagers. I always like my rice lagers, and that was a 6%. I rated that 4 on Untapped. Also, the Dream Seeker. Now I've got to go back to our group chat because one of these, I can't remember which one. I should have done some research before we started this podcast. Nobody had rated this on Untapped. And I had actually sent this in our group chat, and I'm like, I'm the winner today. Nobody has rated this beer in yet. It may have been the Dream Seeker. The Dream Seeker from the Perrin Brewing Company was a 4.8% fruit beer. I rated that as a 3.75. Also, I got the Irish Rover, which was a red ale, an Irish red ale, 6%, 3.75 on Untappd. Another one, it was a traditional ghost sour called Ghost Into the Limelight. And that was a 4.8% that I rated a 3.75. And then, oh boy. I don't want to talk bad about beers necessarily.
Look, you
Well, my,
you can offset it just a little bit sometimes. They can't
well,
all be winners.
so my friend Dan had taken a very small sip of this beer, and he looked at me and he goes, Sully, if you rate this beer high, I don't know who you are.
And all his intuitions and all his
Woo!
guesswork was out the window.
So God bless anybody that likes this beer from the Perrin Brewing Company. If you like it, good for you. Wasn't my thing. It was called the Space Funk. It was an American wild ale. In fact, as I read the whole thing, basically it said I'm not even going to read the rest of that. It was just great.
Well, you know what? Sometimes, and we've heard this. Sometimes maybe just the beer's just not for you.
It
You know,
wasn't for me.
just maybe.
I rated it probably one of the lowest ratings I've rated a beer in a while. A
Look,
3.
you and I know enough and talking to enough people that we don't shit on something because we don't like this stuff. Sometimes we just
Hmm.
don't like the beer, right?
Right.
I just don't like it for whatever
Well,
reason.
I love the brewery. I hope to go back to the brewery sometime. Go to the Perrin Brewing Company up near Grand Rapids if you're in the area. Try all the beer. If you happen to try that one, let me know how you like it. If you don't like it, or if you do like it and I didn't like it, that's okay. We can disagree.
I'd say get the big flight.
Yeah, yeah. Get them all. Get them
Get
all.
them all.
Yeah,
Get two
right.
nine. Get two of the nines.
That's right. That's right. All right. So that we did that, and then we were moving on along that day. We actually went to a pizza place that I want to recommend in the area, Grand Rapids. We didn't have any beer there because we had to hydrate because we were moving along. Yeah, I know you're shaking your head like what?
I am. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know why I even went.
We went for the pizza, my friend. It was a highly recommended place up there, and it was called Vitali's, and it was some of the best pizza I've had in quite some time. I did not get any pineapple on my pizza.
Hmm?
Sorry. I
Hmm?
didn't. Nope, didn't do it.
Hang on.
Yep.
No beer and no pineapple.
Nope.
Why did you even get out of bed? I
I
don't even.
don't know.
I don't understand.
I don't know.
But it's your story. Do tell.
It's my story, but yeah, went there. So that was a lot of fun, and I like I said, I would highly recommend Vitali's if you go there. I know they have beer. We were just in there to get the pizza, and then after that, we went to a minor league baseball game in Grand Rapids. We ended up going. It was the minor league baseball team, single A baseball, to the Detroit Tigers. They were playing the single A baseball team of the Reds. The Grand Rapids team won that night, but I want to give a shout out to their ballpark because it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. Had a great time. Also had a beer up there from a brewery called Brewery Vivant, which
Hmm.
was a farmhouse ale saison, and I rated that as a 3.75 on tap. So
So you're saying and I've seen this in some of the single and double A parks, like a nice park, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it really was. They did it up right. In fact, they had what looked to be like a party deck out in the outfield. Um, that had founders. So founders was out there too. So yeah, yeah. So
Outstanding. You know,
yeah,
I know Sounds is AAA here. Pretty nice park. The one in Bowling Green, which I think it's single or double A, very nice park too. So it seems to be a trend. Even the lower tiers in baseball have really nice parks these days.
yeah. No, it was a really great time. The weather was fantastic, and I'm glad that we were able to get to all that. So that was a great day. And I know there's going to be people that are going to be listening to this at the brewery, podcast, and they're going to say, "Steve, you got to Grand Rapids and you didn't go to Founders? What
That's what
happened?"
I was going to ask. Yeah, what happened, Steve?
Well, let's just say this: there was a pretty big event going on that day. There was a lot of security around the area. People can look up what the big event was.
Hmm.
So we didn't get the Founders. But I got my Founders beer today and I brought some back.
All right. What? not that you would have gotten more for sure, but you definitely got your fair share of founders while you were there.
I did. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brought back. I've already brought back 4 beers, and that was a great day. So really, to be honest with you, that kind of encapsulated my beer drinking because the next day I didn't drink any beer. We actually drove up an hour to Muskegon, Michigan from Holland and went swimming in Lake Michigan. First time ever. I've never
All
been
right.
swimming in Lake Michigan.
It's a big lake, isn't
It's a big lake. That's right.
it?
Didn't see any sharks. Actually, I was told it was
No.
funny. The group of people I was with, they said the great thing about this is there's no salt in the water and there's no sharks. In fact, I didn't see any fish, but it was a great day. And yes, the weather, the lake was a little cold, a little chilly, but once you got in, and
Yeah.
did your thing, it really wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically there about the warmest part of the year, right? Maybe
Oh
give
yeah,
or take a couple of
yeah.
weeks, but yeah.
Well, in fact, it's funny you say that because the night I got up there, that Thursday night when I got into the outdoor music festival, we were there till like 9 or 10. There was some music going on, and I think I mentioned this earlier. It started to feel like early fall. I was like, "Oh, it's getting a little chilly up here," but then again, I'm used to the heat and humidity in Nashville, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you
All
stick
right.
your head outside, it's almost 8 o'clock now. You could stick your head outside. It's still 90 degrees outside here.
Oh, at least, yeah. I'm inside. I've got the air conditioner on. I'm still sweating.
I know. I'm fine right inside here.
So here's the big tease of my trip up there. So I left.
Hang on. Let me
Yeah.
pour a whiskey for this one. Hang on.
Okay. You need some whiskey?
Let me top off my whiskey for this one.
Okay.
I'm
Let me
sit
have
back.
another. Let me have another
All right.
drink of beer here.
Sit back and listen.
Before we get into your trip, we're going to talk about my trip home.
This is gonna be the highlight of the evening, anyway.
So the people anybody that's going to listen to this podcast, there's going to be a couple of takeaways here. Steve, it was about 8.5 hours. Why didn't you just drive? Next time I'm driving.
Mm-hmm.
Steve, when you booked your itinerary, why did you do that? Well, because I did, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
the funny thing was, my buddy Dan had said to me, he goes, so there was only one airline that does direct flights to Grand Rapids. And I thought about that. The only problem was they only did one flight up and one flight back. And I thought, well, if the flight gets canceled, you're kind of screwed, right? Like, what are your options? So my option was, if I'm going to fly, what airline am I going to fly? I have never, ever had, and I'm not going to bash them, but I have never, ever had a bad experience flying Southwest Airlines until this time.
Mm-mm.
So here's my itinerary on the way back. Getting out of Grand Rapids, and I'm supposed to connect into Baltimore, which is really kind of crazy when you think about it. It's like you're going way away from Nashville. Okay, so I was supposed to fly out that day. This is Monday. It was like July 22nd. I was supposed to fly out that day at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Get to the airport about 12:30. Get into the terminal, and I look, and I can see that my flight is already delayed about 15 minutes. Not a big deal. So about 15 minutes goes by. I go down to the airport bar. I get a drink. I get done with that. I walk over, and I get a notification on my phone. It's been delayed another hour because of weather in Baltimore. So to make a long story short, we had 2 other delays because the flight crew that came in had maxed out their, I think it's called the air miles or something for the day. So we had to wait on another flight crew. So we actually did not get out of Grand Rapids until 6:30 that night.
Good God.
I had already been there since 12:30. 11:30 Central Time. That's key right here. 11:30 Central Time, 12:30 Eastern Time, which is what they're on. The funny thing is, I had a couple of friends of mine that are texting me like, "Oh my God, are you out?" No, I'm not out yet. And I had actually considered maybe I should have done this. Once my second flight got delayed, or actually I think it was like the 4th time or something. I don't even know. I lost track. By the time it's flying out at 6:30. About 4:30 in the afternoon, I'm looking, going, maybe I should just go across the way, get a rental car, stay the night, get up the next day, just to ride back to Nashville. Seemed like it may have been easier, right? Well, I
But you're
didn't
holding
do
out. But you're holding out hope.
holding out hope, right? So basically, I had to reschedule my flight from Baltimore to Nashville twice. So my flight from Baltimore, by the time I got there, was supposed to fly out at 10 o'clock that night. So we get to Baltimore finally after about 8:30, and I think we've all been to airports where you gotta walk a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the Baltimore airport and we get in about 8:30. I haven't had dinner yet. I'm hungry. I'm tired. All of it. And I had to
Hungover.
I wasn't actually hungover, believe it or not. I should have been, but I wasn't. Going from Concourse C to Concourse A probably took about 20 minutes. All right. So I get there and I look at the board and I'm like, here we go. 15-minute delay. So we were supposed to fly out Baltimore to Cincinnati at about 10 o'clock. It's delayed to like 10:20 at this point. I go down, I get some food, I eat some food, I go back. At this point, I'm so over it all. I'm sitting at the terminal. I watch our plane come in. I watch everybody else get off the plane. I'm watching our luggage on the plane. I'm watching the captain and the co-captain sitting there waiting, and it's like 10 o'clock, and we're not boarding this plane. And at this point, I'm almost suicidal. I'm like, if we don't get on this plane.
Something's got to give.
So then everybody's phone in the area, because we're all waiting, goes off at about the same time, and you hear the collective groan. The flight has been delayed again for at least another hour because the flight crew they didn't have the entire flight crew for this plane, so they were coming in on another flight. So to make a long story short, we finally got out of the Baltimore airport about 11:30 that night, got back into Nashville. Guess what time I got home?
Oh, let's see. 2.
It was 1:30 a.m.
Good Lord.
And I Ubered to the airport. So taking an Uber that time of night, I was actually kind of glad to a degree, but I was like, yeah.
They
So,
still around? The Uber's still around that time
oh
of day?
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. So that is my that was without a doubt the worst air travel experience I've ever had.
So net hours
Yep,
it took you to get
yes,
from
sir.
A to B. How many
Yep.
hours was that?
Well, look, think about this. I actually got to the Grand Rapids Airport at 11:30 Central Time, and I got home at 1:30 in the morning Central Time,
You're talking 14 hours.
which I could have drove it.
Steve, you should have drove.
I should have drove.
You'd have been home. You'd have been home 3.5 hours earlier.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, I had even told you this. I said there were a couple of people that were texting me. My sister, one of them, we talked the other night, because at one point she had made a joke to me, which I didn't get until she told me that she was making a plane, trains, and automobiles joke, and I had, she had said something like, "What are you gonna do? Or are you gonna go on to Baltimore?" And she's like, "Maybe you should get a Greyhound." But she was kidding, and I was reading this text message going, what in the hell is she talking about? Get a Greyhound. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
That's a pretty good joke, actually.
But basically, when my flight got delayed the last time in Baltimore, a couple of people that were texting me, I just said, I'm done with everybody. I'm not talking to anybody the rest of the night. I don't care who you are. Unless it's an emergency, I'm checking out. And so that was my plane flight from hell.
Did you get some good rest the next day? Sleep in, recover?
Yeah, I was off work the next day.
Yeah, that's smart.
I didn't move from the couch. No, there was nothing. Yeah, it was nothing. Because if everything would have worked out well, I would have been home that night probably at about 7:30.
Yeah,
it would have worked out well.
That's late enough when you're coming back from somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like that's enough. I'll be home. I can get to bed at a decent time.
I'm sure other people have some air travel experience stories as well to tell.
You know,
But that was mine. That one was pretty bad.
and it's completely out of your control, which is a problem, right? You just feel
Hmm.
you feel you can't do anything about it, and you're at their
Nothing.
mercy. And
You can't do nothing.
was there any recourse for you on your tickets or pricing or any of that stuff?
I didn't even
Money
get to
back?
that conversation. I guess, I guess it would have been had it been maybe the whole thing would have been canceled. And I kept thinking to myself, well, they canceled this flight at 11:30. I mean, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna sleep at the airport? Are we gonna,
Yeah, I
because
mean, if you, I mean, you have to, it takes effort. But if you call them and you could probably call them and complain, and they might give you
yeah,
something back. I had an
yeah,
issue once going to Buffalo and never got there, and they gave it back to me. But the problem was I never got to my destination. So
yeah. I
maybe there's some
got to my
recourse.
destination. I chose to
Yeah,
reschedule my flights because it was just one of those things like, what are you going to do? But I will tell you the next time I go up there, and I will go back up there again
yeah.
because I really like the area. They got a great brewery scene. Oh, 8.5 hours? I'm driving. Yeah,
Drive, split
yeah,
it up, like
yeah.
you said. Maybe go to Indianapolis or something, and it's
There you go.
a little
There you
Louisville or
go.
something.
So that's my plane flight from hell.
Well, we're glad you made it back.
Thank you.
Ultimately,
Yeah.
I
Yep.
didn't know any of this went on.
I don't.
Um, well, so let me transition to what I did kind of during that
Yes.
time, that same week, but the whole week. So we drove. We were going to Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Emerald Isle, North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, and we drive to Raleigh because Amy's sister and brother-in-law live there, and we usually stay the night, and then we drive from there, and it's 2.5 hour drive from there. I would have liked to have flown because it's only an hour and a half flight.
Yeah.
Ironically, per your story, the thing about, remember all the blue screens and stuff last week,
Yeah.
that happened to the airlines.
But see, Southwest that I flew was not impacted by that
No,
because
no,
I had
not
been
that day. But this was the
okay.
day
Yeah.
going out. This was
Okay.
the Friday we're going up. So, but that happened
Yeah.
then. So, ironically, if we had flown, we might have been in that maybe the same kind of mess as you,
Okay. Yeah.
as in taking longer to get there. Although it
Yeah.
still took 8 hours to get to Raleigh, but that was fine. Anyway, so headed to Emerald Isle. We leave on the Friday, the 19th, I believe it was. Amy drove. It was her vehicle. We were going to bring this table back from her mom, which is the reason we drove. So ultimately, spoiler, didn't bring the table back.
Yeah.
Doesn't really play in anything other than there's no table. And
There's no table.
no table. But what I got to do was, by the time we got to Asheville, North Carolina, it was about noon
Okay.
their time. So she was driving. I had a cooler full of beers to take with me. I proceeded to have car beers, obviously in the
Of
car
course.
because I wasn't driving. So I drank beer. I think it was 4 beers from Asheville to Raleigh, which was really a good way to get started for the beach trip, right?
Yes.
So anyway, we get to Raleigh. We have a couple beers at her sister's house, and then we go to a place called Tobacco Wood Brewing Company, which is in Durham, which is right down the road from their house.
Mm-hmm.
And it was fantastic. Big giant restaurant, great beers. Obviously, a place I've never been to before. Wonderful spot. Met the family that was everybody that was going to the beach were there too. I had 2 flights of 4 and a pint, so I had 9 beers at this place.
All right.
Yeah, and I didn't do a good job of you of like pointing out specific beers, but I just had quantity because
Yeah.
everything was new. So we had a good time there, and that was the night before we actually left to go to the beach the next day. So did that. It was a good time. Went back to their house, had some more beers. Next day, I get up. So you've heard me talk about Burial many times.
Many times.
Burial has a tap room in Raleigh.
Ah, yeah. Gotta love it.
Yep. So Amy's brother-in-law is another Scott who I know very well. We drink a lot of beer together. He had stopped and got a bunch of beer to take to the beach. I, meanwhile, the next morning before we leave to go to Emerald Isle, I go to Burial as well and grab 4 4-packs of new stuff. He had already grabbed a full, flat full, which I think is 6 4-packs. Yeah, there's 24 in there. So we're loaded down with Burial to head to the beach. So obviously my favorite stuff. So Get a bunch of those. On the way to the beach, we stop in Kinston, North Carolina, which is a little brewery on the way called Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Have a couple of pints there on the way to the beach. Hit the beach on the Saturday. I think it's the 20th. And we're there for the whole week. Monday through Saturday through Saturday. We have to leave Saturday morning, but so we usually pick a. So we're drinking a lot of beach beers between the time you get there to the time you leave, right? Just a lot of beach
Right.
beers. But we always pick a day. We usually look for a day where it rains. See if it rain out, where we go into town and hit some breweries. So this is where the brewery part comes into play. So we go into a little town called Beaufort, North
Okay.
Carolina.
Beaufort.
A little Beaufort, and we get a little lunch, have a couple of beers there, and then they've got a brewery there that we've gone to many times. It's called Fishtowne Brewhouse in Beaufort. It's right on the water, very nice place. Have a couple of flights there, a couple of Belgians. They have everything. They have sours, they've got Belgians, they've got brown ales, everything. So have a couple of those, a couple of flights there, and then we were looking for a new place. This place popped up on our map, and it was called Mill Whistle Brewing in Beaufort, and it was in the same town, but it was like a mile and a half away, so we had to drive there. But anyway, we get over there, and it's a small little place, and everybody in there is local. And I'm like, oh shit, we're gonna we might either get beat up, we might get beat up, or get thrown out of here. What
They
you guys?
probably were happy to see you.
Yeah, you ain't from around here. But they were the nicest people. As a matter of fact, I
Yeah.
put up an
See.
Instagram thing, and it was Ron, Roland, and Jack, and they're asking where some of those guys had worked in Nashville
Yeah.
before, so that we were speaking the language. Um, and we just talked to them for a good hour and had five. We had a flight and plus one. And it was just the best time. This off the path, off the
Well,
beaten
good.
path, little place, and they had really good. And apparently they had been there 8 years. It used to be an old mill,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
or a little
Mill
lumber yard or
whistle. Yep.
something. Yeah, mill
I used to
whistle.
blow the whistle in the town and wake everybody up.
There you go.
Yep.
And apparently every day at 4:45, the whistle still goes off in
Oh,
this
that's awesome. I
in this
love
little
that.
town. We weren't
Yep.
there for it, but anyway, great town, a great little town, great spot. We walked away there like we had discovered something new, even though they had been there a while. Great experience. Anyway, so one of the beers that actually stood out for me was they did a collab with a place called Crystal Coast
Hmm.
Brewing, which I'm going to talk about next. They're actually on the island as well, but it was the ales for ALS beer, and it was again a collab that they had done, and that was really cool to see a little small brewery like that doing one which was kind of a bigger brewery in town. So anyway, cool little place. Walked away from there talking about that for about 2 days because of the
Yeah.
experience. You know how we talk about our criteria for favorite breweries?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Experiences like that qualify.
Yep.
The
It
beer
was
was
like the
good.
one that I had at Mitten in Grand Rapids. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, love it.
you just walk away like that was just the coolest thing. So we left there, and this was all on the same day, all on the I guess it was the Friday. No, it was the Thursday. Anyway, so we always go to Crystal Coast Brewing. Had a flight of 4 there. Nice, solid, big brewery in town. Big space. We go every year. Really good beer. Um, and then we did one flight there because we kind of we're getting back to the beach house and meeting everybody for dinner and all that. And then the next day, which Friday, it actually rained. It didn't rain all week, like during the day as a rain out until the Friday, which we'd already planned to go to the brewery the day before. So we decided to get out, and we found this little tap house, like a little tap room called the Wheelhouse, and we went over there,
Hmm.
had a couple of beers, kind of chilling. Really good beer selection. Reminded me of Growlers a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good beer selection, and they had a really big cooler too of singles that you could buy. Anyway, so that was cool. I mean, that was the day before we had to leave, but so some of the beach beers that we had,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of down. I'm talking about basically I'm talking about one day because
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
beach
Yeah.
beers, you know.
Definitely.
So,
Yeah.
but so we had a lot of Burial. Her brother had brought down Hoof Hearted out of
Okay.
Columbus.
I've heard of them. Yep.
Yep, it's Hoof Hearted. We say it quickly. It's Hoof Hearted, right?
Who farted?
Hoof Hearted. Yep,
Love it.
really, really good. They're on par with Burial, and they do a lot of sour stuff. Really good. Um, you have to when you're on the beach, you have to have some day drinkers. You can't just drink that heavy stuff all day long.
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah.
Double IPAs, at 6, 7, 8%. Man, you
No.
gotta maybe
No.
one or two, or have them
Yeah.
in the evenings when you get home.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yes, so you go out and get some day drinkers. So we got some Highland Gaelic. We got some Founders
Thank you.
all day
Yep.
IPA. Got a
Love it.
15 pack of that. Yes, because you can drink it all day.
Yes, you can.
I actually brought down some. You might have seen one of the posts. I brought down some local stuff from Nashville.
Yep. New Heights.
I brought some New Heights. Brought some Fela Force. Some Yazoo. The East Nashville Beer Works. The East Nashville Beer Works in the New Heights was the uh, Music City Brew Hop beer, and it's
Yeah. Really a good collection.
yes. So brought that down. So anyway, not as exciting as your week.
Well, I don't
There's just
know.
days, and,
You were at the beach. You were at the beach, and I was north. Now, I did go to the beach at Lake Michigan,
yeah.
but yeah,
A lot of my time is just sit. You sit at the beach all day, just drinking beer.
Yeah.
You're reading a book. You sit there for hours, and then the beach house
Yeah.
was really nice. They had a pool, but it was really cool. You relax. But I always look forward to that day at the beach. I always look forward to a day where it rains, where I can go to the breweries.
yeah, yeah.
And if it doesn't
Need an
happen, I'm
excuse.
still going to the breweries. There's
I'm
going to be
still
a
going
day.
anyway. Yeah.
I gotta go. There's one day I just have to get out. I can only take so much beach. But
Well, and
couple,
this
a
is.
couple. Oh,
Yeah,
go ahead. I was
No, I
gonna
was
say,
going to say this is one of the reasons why we call it the Brewery Underground Podcast, because sometimes we hit breweries, we got to talk about our experiences, and maybe it helps people as they're looking to find out places to go.
yeah, this place is. If you're ever in, if you're ever in Emerald Isle, it's just a long way from here. But
All
couple of
right.
stats. I like stats. All right,
Yep.
so a couple quick stats. So based on what I checked in, and I'm sure I missed a few because when I would drink at the beach, I would leave my phone at the house and I
Yeah.
would check them in later. So I probably missed a few, but I think I had 81 total beers starting with Friday with the beer with the road beers, the car beers.
Yeah.
54 were new. Obviously, a lot of tasters in it with the breweries, but pretty big percentage for being at the beach for a week and mixing in day drinkers and whatnot. So that's a lot. That's a
Good
lot.
job, sir. Good job.
But thank you. I like numbers. And then we had her brother had brought down the Bartesian. I don't know if you know what this Bartesian is. It looks like a Keurig machine for coffee,
Yeah.
but it's for cocktails. So they have pods for the cocktail drinks that you want, and you kind of put in the container the liquor that you want. Anyway, he makes cocktails. We killed a bottle of Buffalo Trace.
Oh
Killed a
my.
bottle.
Yes.
Yep. Killed a bottle of Southern Collector that I had brought down. One of our National Bourbon Society picks. Killed a bottle of Maker's Mark. Bottle of Sazerac. So every night, when you go
You got it
inside.
going on there.
Well, it's like Ryan had said in the previous podcast. Sometimes you just get tired of beer.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to go on to something else.
You drink beer all day. You want something different.
I know it.
So,
I know it.
Your flavor profile changes. So anyway, that was my week. We had to drive back. Your flight back was still longer than our drive back. So we had to come back on the Saturday, and we had to drive straight through. So it was like 10 and a half hours. You gained an hour.
I am pretty sure that on this podcast, it's the last time you will ever hear me talk about that plane flight. If you want to know what I thought, go back and listen to this podcast, everybody, because I probably am never going to talk about it ever again in the future.
I might bring it up.
It's likely I will drive. I'll just say, reference this podcast. That's what you're going to do. Hey, before we get out of here, I want to promote some of our upcoming podcasts. We actually just did a podcast with our fine friends at Mad Tree Brewing in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
That's going
that
to
was
be dropping
literally an hour ago, maybe 2
an
hours
hour
ago.
ago.
Yep.
And that was a great podcast. That's going to be dropping here soon. We're also going to have our friends Keith and Coop. They're going to be telling some stories. We actually recorded it 2 parts over the 4th of July,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be dropping here soon too. So we get a lot of great stuff coming up. Anything else about some of the future podcasts you want to talk about?
Yeah, man. I don't know if I want to put the names out there. I want
Mm,
to, but
yeah,
we got some really good stuff coming.
got some good stuff.
We do, and it's not it's and we love breweries and we love beer. It's not just that too that we got coming. We're very
Correct.
diverse in what we're doing right now, and I'm excited for it. And we're going places we haven't been before.
Yeah.
With
Yep.
some of our guests that we're going, but it all ties in,
It does.
which is the fun part of it all. So
The whole brewery, the whole beer community experience. And speaking of the beer community, we're gonna end this podcast on this today. So I want to give a shout out to our friends, the Hill Tappers, who we had met over the 4th of July. They came into Nashville. They had heard our podcast. They brought us some beer. Well, they're in Louisville, Kentucky, and so they hit breweries around there, but they also go up to the Cincinnati area sometimes too. And they have posted on social media just recently that they have paid their very first visit to one of our favorite breweries,
hmm
Sonder Brewing. Said they loved it. The thing that stood out to me though, they sent a message out and they said they had that Kings Island blue ice cream ale and they didn't exactly like it. And I think when we had it, it was kind of like, oh, interesting. Um, and we're not dissing on Sonder because we love Sonder.
right.
It's that particular beer that's a little quirky. But got to give out a shout out to the Hill Tappers. And by the way, I have to also correct something. So I realized on a different podcast that we did, I had actually mentioned that Kings Island growing up. That I remember that Kings Island had the Kings Island blue ice cream beer. It was actually blue ice cream and not beer because as a kid, that overlay I always think beer, right? No, as a
Uh-huh.
kid, I had the Kings Island blue ice cream, not blue ice cream beer. They didn't
How
have that there, I don't think.
how did
That's
you
Sonder that incorporated that.
how did you pick up on that?
I was editing a podcast recently, and it was with Keith and Coop. I was editing a
Oh,
podcast,
I
and I
see.
and I went back and I started laughing, and I'm like, oh yeah, I had mentioned that it was the blue ice cream beer, but I was like, no, it actually was a blue ice cream that I had as a kid.
I so wish it was the beer.
Yeah, it was funny. All right. Well, that has been our divide and conquer trip. We hope that everybody out there, if you enjoyed it, and maybe some of the recommendations that we have, go to where we talked about, go enjoy the beer, get back to us, and let us know how it went for you.
I got something coming. Yeah. Yeah, shit, there's something I was gonna say. Yeah, I was gonna be specific about something. Nah, scratch it. I really want to. I really want to say some of the names of shit, but nah, we'll scratch it.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. All right, Scott. Well, we're getting out of here. We'll be back soon on another podcast. No, I'm going to start that over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Scott. Well, we're going to get out of here. This has been the Brewery Underground podcast for Scott Turon. I'm Steve Sullivan, and this has been the Brewery Underground podcast.
Cheers. Woohoo!
There you go.
I felt like I rambled. Your story was much fucking being at the beach is kind of like